With that out of the way, now I can inspect my plastic gauge and check the readings on it. Thankfully, all of mine look nice and consistent all the way through. If you looked at one of your journals and one side was thin but the other side of the plastic gauge was more spread out, you should stop and figure out what's going on before you go any further. Now the paper that the plastic gauge came in is your actual measuring tool, so you just cut a section off, they're all the same, and you actually use that to look at the width of the plastic gauge and you can determine what your clearances are. One side of the paper is in millimeters, the other side of the paper is in inches, so you could just go ahead and flip it back and forth to whichever measurement you're looking for. In my case, the one that seemed to match is the white stripe in the center, which is 0.038 or about 15 thou. Now that's on the tighter side of the clearances, but it's still within specifications, so I'm gonna run with it. I don't plan to beat on my car or bouncing off the rev limiter or anything like that. I'm not that type of person. I just really want to build a car that I could just get in. It's fun to drive, but I have never been the type to beat on any of my cars. Now that I have my measurements, I could clean all of the plastic gauge off of the crank and the bearing surface. Just spend some time here, make sure you get all of it off. You don't want any of the plastic gauge left behind. Once I go ahead and pull out the crank, you're going to see that the bearings are obviously still in place. And it looks like I just left them there and moved forward, but that's not true. I actually removed all the bearings once again to clean underneath them and just really make sure they're 100% oil free. Here I have a new set of thrust washers, and these are the parts that determine the end play on the crank. If you look at this one journal right here, it's the only one that has machine work or provisions to accept these thrust washers, so you really cannot put them anywhere else. You don't have to worry about them falling out, because once you put the crank in place, the crank is going to hold them in place, and you don't have to worry about them spinning because the girdle itself that goes on top doesn't have any provisions for these thrust washers. So once you set that crank in, they are locked in place and there's nowhere for them to move. Now you want to make sure you cover both sides with assembly lube, because the assembly lube is very tacky and it's what's going to hold them in place until you set the crank down. You'll notice that the thrust washers have one side that's flat and another side that has cuts in it so oil can pass through. The flat surface is going to face the block, and the side with the oil passages is going to face outward towards the crank. Time to put some assembly lube on these bearings. You don't have to go crazy with it. Like I mentioned earlier, this assembly lube is very tacky. So just a little dab in the center of each bearing and you could go ahead and spread it out, and for the most part it's going to stay wherever you spread it because of its tackiness. You can also apply some lube to the crank itself. I didn't put any on there because I felt like my bearings had more than enough assembly lube on them, but it doesn't hurt to add any to the crank itself. And once again, it's time to reinstall the crank, and just like before, just take your time, nice and slow. You don't want to damage anything at this point. With the crank in place, I'm just going to go ahead and rotate it a little bit. I really want to make sure nothing is binding at this point, and it should feel nice and smooth, and it does. And here I am with the coffee filters once again and some brake parts cleaner, and I'm really just cleaning the surface here of where we're going to put the silicone at. And I'm performing the same exact thing on the block itself. The mating surface where the silicone is going to go, you want it 100% dry and clean. Now we could go ahead and put the assembly lube on this half of the bearings, and we're just getting it ready to mate the two surfaces together. Now here's the part where I'm going to have people yelling at the screen because I'm not using Honda Bond and instead I'm using regular Permatex black RTV. If you don't know what Honda Bond is, it's basically just Honda's own version of silicone, so you would like get it from the dealer. Some people swear by it, but me, I feel like it's really the same thing, and I have no problem using this black RTV silicone on here. If it fails on me someday in the future, I will be the first one to admit that it didn't work and I should have used Honda Bond here, but until then, I have complete faith in it. If you're paying attention, you notice that I put a thin bead of silicone all the way around the girdle, which ended up being too much. So I tried to take some off with a rag. As you can see now, I'm putting the girdle on the block, but I didn't like the way the squeeze out was looking, so I actually ended up taking it all apart again. I wiped off the majority of the silicone and left a very thin layer on the girdle, and then I came back to the block and applied a thin layer on the block itself. So now both sides had a thin layer of silicone, and when I mated them together, it made for a very nice squeeze out, and I was happy with that. I made sure to pay careful attention to this because it happened to many people, including the guys from Speed Academy, that used too much silicone on the oil pan and the excess squeezed out and ended up clogging the oil pickup tube, which doomed that engine. I know it's a lesson they'll never forget. Now I'm reinstalling all of the bolts again, and this time we're going to torque it down for good, making sure to follow the sequence and the correct torque specs like we did the first time. Now that I've completed the first step in torquing the fasteners, I'm just going to turn the crank a little bit and make sure it still turns and nothing is binding. And once I'm done 100% torquing everything down, I'll give it one more final turn just to make sure it's okay. Now I can install the bolts that hold the girdle down to the block and torque everything down to spec as well. It's been about 24 hours since I torqued everything down, so at this point the silicone is nice and cured, and looking inside of the block we could get a good look at the squeeze out of the silicone, and to me this looks perfect. I'm not concerned with it at all. I'm not worried that chunks of silicone are going to fall off into the oil pan and then get stuck in the strainer of the oil pickup tube and cause all kinds of problems. So I'm really happy with the way this turned out. I'm just going to do a little bit of cleaning outside of the block here. Now it's time to measure crank and play, and originally I was using feeler gauges which worked fine, but I want to get a little bit more precise measurements. I was one click away from buying a dial indicator online until I remembered that I inherited one from my girlfriend's father. He was cleaning out the garage one day and came across many tools that belonged to his father, And this is the point where I found out that his father was a machinist, so he had all these tools laying around and he was just gonna throw them out. He offered them to me, and of course I'm not gonna throw away perfectly good, especially vintage tools like this. So I gladly accepted. At that moment I had no need for this tool, but I knew if I held on to it, it would come in hand someday. I'm very appreciative to have a tool like this and that it's been in their family for this long. It was really tricky trying to find a way to set this thing up, but eventually I got it. I know it's probably not the best setup, but I did get it to work. Here I'm jiggling this small part back and forth just to show you that it's not interfering with anything. I couldn't remove it, so I'm just gonna have to work around it. Here the dial indicator has a little bit of pressure on the crank, and that's perfectly fine because we're gonna end up zeroing it out anyway. Now that I have everything set up, I'm gonna grab my screwdriver and I'm gonna pry against the girdle, pushing the crank towards the back of the engine. And while I hold pressure on it, I'm gonna go ahead and zero out my gauge right here, and that'll give us a good baseline to start with. Now because of the camera angle, it's gonna look like I'm not exactly on zero, but I am on zero. I double checked it, so don't be alarmed that things may look just a hair off. And now that we have our gauge zeroed out, we could go ahead and pry the crank in the opposite direction. So we're gonna pry it forward, and this is where we're gonna get our measurements from. So as you can see, as I apply pressure, we get a reading on the gauge. So let's get a closer look at this. And to me, it looks like we're getting 6 thou, and that's perfectly within specifications. Now just to be sure, I pried the crank backwards again, and it should be at 0, which it is, so that's a good sign. And once again, we're gonna pry it forward, and the same exact reading, so we're good to go.
No, I don't regret what I did. If I could, I'd do it all over again. She deserves what she got. Oh, wait. What was the question again? Oh, yeah, of course. This concludes installing the crank. Obviously, the next video is going to be installing the pistons and the connecting rods. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram. It's where I post all my updates. And like always, thanks for watching.